Hi, I'm Thomas Bowles, Prince William County Agricultural Extension Agent. Welcome to our video.
Ground covers are low-growing plants that spread quickly to form a dense layer. Think of ground covers as a carpet of foliage. Usually the term ground cover denotes low-growing plants, but ground covers can also refer to taller, spreading shrubs or trees that grow together to create a dense cover of vegetation. In today's presentation, I will be focusing on low-growing, herbaceous plants that are native to Northern Virginia. Ground covers add beauty to the landscape and at the same time provide habitat, reduce weeding, and help prevent soil erosion. Ground covers are used to suppress weeds and to fill in the bottom layer of landscapes. In nature, these are simply plants that constitute the bottom layer, which is an essential part of the ecosystem. Ground covers are also known as the herbaceous layer, the regenerative layer, ground flora, and even step over. Grass is the best known ground cover, but sometimes grass is not suited for all locations. Though turf grass is certainly one of the most popular ground covers and useful for pathways and play surfaces, it is also one that can require relatively high maintenance. Let's review some of the benefits of ground covers. They can reduce maintenance requirements and associated pollution. Ground covers whose requirements fit the existing conditions of the site will require less fertilizer, pesticides, and mowing than traditional turf grass. Less fertilizer and pesticides means less potential for pollution of runoff stormwater, and reducing lawnmower use cuts down on a significant source of air pollution. Ground covers can offer higher wildlife value than a monoculture of turf grass. Diversity of vegetation supports a diversity of insects, which is the basis of the food web for local and migrating birds, small mammals, amphibians, and reptiles, as well as a variety of other beneficial wildlife. Besides food, many ground covers also provide wildlife habitat. Ground covers serve as living mulch by preserving soil moisture, suppressing weeds, protecting soil from temperature fluctuations, and protecting organic debris that hosts a variety of beneficial soil organisms. Ground covers loosen the soil with a network of roots, benefiting nearby trees and shrubs with increased pore space and oxygen content around their roots. Ground covers reduce mower and string trimmer damage to trees and shrubs by providing a buffer between woody plantings and turf areas. Ground covers add variety to the landscape with a diversity of textures, colors, flowers, fruits, and changing seasonal interest. Ground covers fulfill important design functions such as providing a transition between lawn and shrub plantings, unifying scattered trees and shrubs, softening the edges of hardscapes, or setting off a specimen plant, statue, or other landscape feature. Ground covers eliminate dangerous and/or difficult mowing situations on slopes, in tight corners, or against buildings, fences, or walls. Ground covers can give your wall a break. Although individual plants cost more in the short run than turf grass, long-run upkeep costs will generally be lower for ground covers that fit your site conditions than for ill-adapted turf grass. In addition to benefits of ground covers, there are some disadvantages. That includes most ground covers aren't available as seed. Ground covers can be costly to convert a large area. Your HOA might not allow them, and many are not intended to be walked on and may be damaged by foot traffic. It's important to have layers of vegetation, such as the tree canopy, understory, trees, shrubs, ground layer of forbs, ferns, and grasses that sustain soil health, offer food and shelter to wildlife, and moderate temperatures. Most of our built landscapes, unfortunately, are typically missing one or more vegetative layers, and many times the herbaceous layer is overlooked. We can easily support more wildlife species by taking cues from nature and choosing a palette of plants appropriate for our particular site conditions. For example, if your landscape has some tree cover but little else, you could add a shrub layer and herbaceous ground covers, which will attract a variety of bird species and other wildlife. Aesthetically, it is usually more pleasing to have some variety rather than a monoculture of a very low-growing plant. A ground cover can be any plant that physically covers or hides the background from view, and it doesn't have to be evergreen or a single species. And from a conservation landscaping perspective, any herbaceous or low-growing woody plant is a good ground cover. Ground covers in nature are typically much taller than the 2 to 3 inches in height we're typically accustomed to seeing in a conventional lawn. The herbaceous layer in a productive habitat garden is not likely to be a short carpet, but rather a diverse composition of plants of varying heights that cover the ground. If your landscape has some tree cover but little else, consider adding a shrub layer and herbaceous ground covers. And rely on mulch as little as possible in favor of greater plant diversity and ground covers. These next few photos were taken at the Morton Arboretum in Lisle, Illinois, and they have a ground cover garden. In their garden, I saw best ground cover plants for Northern Illinois. The ground cover garden at the Morton Arboretum is planted with perennials and ground covers chosen to complement trees and shrubs. With a number of matured trees in the garden, light levels vary from place to place, allowing guests to see what plants thrive in full sun, partial shade, or full shade. If you're having some issues with inspiration for your own lawn, visit a nature preserve, arboretum, local forest, or national park, and take inspiration from nature to create diverse communities in your own yard. Turfgrass is not suited to all locations. Remember that turfgrass doesn't provide the necessary food, shelter, or diversity that wildlife and pollinators need and can be high maintenance. Ground cover should be used where grass is difficult to grow or maintain. Sometimes turf is the right cover, but there are other alternatives like Pennsylvania sedge and or moss. The photo on the bottom right would be a good area to incorporate ground covers. This site has steep slopes, surface rocks, exposed roots, and water collects after rain events. The landscape company also rides over the surface tree roots and bare dirt, which they should not be doing. This area receives heavy shade and turf grass is sparse. Removing the mulch volcano and adding a variety of ground covers would decrease maintenance, protect the roots, and make this site more visually appealing. This is a conservation landscape project by Anacostia Riverkeeper. The owners needed help with a hill slope that was heavily eroded. They got a grant from Chesapeake Bay Trust to stabilize the hill slope to prevent stormwater runoff. They used 2 different types of sedges, creek sedges and Appalachian sedges, which are native to the Chesapeake Bay region. St. John's wort and 9-bark were planted amongst the sedges. These 2 sedges have deeper roots than turfgrass and promote native pollinators. Ground covers can be planted under trees and shrubs and around buildings. Ground covers are superior to paving. They perform extremely well to reduce heat, glare, noise, and dust. Virginia bluebells are ephemeral, which means its foliage will die back in the summer, but you could interplant these with other perennials such as ferns. And Virginia bluebells, when grown in masses, make for a spectacular show. Ground covers can be used to reduce maintenance work and to put finishing touches on any landscape project. However, low maintenance isn't no maintenance. There might be some light raking involved so leaves don't get super thick and block sunlight. You can prune spent flowers for best ground cover appearance, and in some cases, cuttings can be used to make new plants. This is a good example where ground covers could be used to hold soil in place, prevent runoff, excessive mulching practices, and improve aesthetics. This is another example where ground covers could be used to hold the soil in place, prevent runoff, excessive mulching practices, reduce weeding, and greatly improve aesthetics. Although easy and inexpensive to install, avoid purchasing and planting English ivy, periwinkle, also known as vinca, creeping lily turf, liripe, and Japanese pachysandra. These species are alien and can be invasive in the landscape. There are many native plants to choose from that will perform well where a low-growing, creeping, spreading, or clump-forming plant is most desired. Let nature work for you and take advantage of common plants that are already on your property and in your lawn. For example, moss. There are over 12,000 species distributed throughout the world. It's sometimes considered a weed in the lawn. It is green in color and does well in shade. It doesn't need to be mowed, doesn't require fertilizer, and prevents erosion. Mosses also provide habitat for small mammals like mice and shrews, as well as salamanders, insects, arachnids, and microscopic invertebrates like tardigrades. Chickadees and winter wrens are among the birds that use mosses to build their nests. In the forest, moss helps regulate the amount of rain that reaches the forest floor by absorbing the moisture and slowly releasing it. Virginia bluebells. Their height at maturity is 1 to 2 feet. They're ephemeral, meaning they have a short life cycle. They have beautiful bluish pink and purple flowers. Their bloom time is March to April, and they are pollinated by long-tongued bees. Wild strawberry. It is considered a weed in the lawn by some. Height of plant at maturity is 1 foot. It's a ground-hugging plant that spreads by runners. It has loose clusters of small white 5-petaled flowers. Wild strawberry supports conservation biological control, meaning that it's a plant that attracts predatory or parasitoid insects that prey upon pest insects. And this was hybridized with the South American variety to produce the cultivated grocery store fruit we know and enjoy today. Common blue violet. This is considered a weed by some. They're easy to care for, attractive, and can be used as fillers among taller plants and will add color to spring and summer gardens. Common blue violet provides nectar for bees and are the host plant for several fritillary butterflies. They have delicate heart-shaped leaves and cute little flowers. They can spread prolifically by self-seeding, and they are free but aggressive ground cover. White clover. This is native to Europe. It's considered a weed by some. It's used as erosion control. It can get 4 to 6 inches tall and spread to 12 inches, and it's a low-growing herbaceous perennial plant in the bean family, with a beautiful white flower that attracts pollinators. Partridge berry. Height at maturity is 1 to 4 inches. It gets a red berry from July to December. It's evergreen and flowers are white. The berries are consumed by a variety of birds and mammals and has been used as a ground cover under acid-loving shrubs. It's a beautiful ground cover intermingled with ferns and fallen leaves, and Native American women drank the tea from the leaves as an aid during childbirth. Pussy-toes are named for its white tufted flowers that look like tiny cat's feet. Height at maturity, it only reaches a foot high or less. It has a single stem, which is topped with adorable fuzzy white flowers while the leaves hug the ground. Pussy-toes are a host plant for caterpillars of the American painted lady butterfly, which feeds on the foliage, and it's an easy-to-grow native ground cover. Mayaples. Height at maturity 8 inches to 1.5 feet. It's ephemeral, meaning its foliage will die back in the summer. Box turtles consume the yellow fruit and thereby spread the seed. Common wild ginger. Height of plant at maturity is 4 to 8 inches. It has a reddish to greenish brown flower at ground level beneath leaves in April to May. Seeds are dispersed by ants, and it's the larval host of the pipevine swallowtail butterfly. Green and gold. It reaches 2 to 6 inches at maturity. It can spread 18 inches or more. Its peak bloom period is in May, and it provides nectar to pollinators. And interestingly, plants seem to grow better if neglected than if pampered. Golden ragwort, 1 to 3 feet at maturity. It's native alternative to non-native invasive English ivy and shades conditions. It's fragrant evergreen with bright yellow flowers. It reseeds like the Dickens, and it's an energetic spreader. It self-sows vigorously that many plants don't need to be installed and can outcompete other herbaceous plants. And it attracts butterflies and bees. Wild columbine reaches 1 to 3 feet at maturity. It has beautiful, stunning flowers. It's short-lived but readily self-sows. It has backward pointed tubes of the flower which contain nectar that attracts long-tongued insects and hummingbirds, especially adapted for reaching the sweet secretion. Wild blue phlox, woodland phlox, 5 to 18 inches at maturity. It has fragrant lavender pink flowers in April to May. It's short-lived but readily self-sows. Wild blue phlox attracts hummingbirds, long-tongued beetles, and butterflies. And in the name, devercata refers to its sprawling habit. Foam flower, it reaches 6 to 12 inches at maturity. It has spikes of white and pinkish flowers and is considered a sturdy ground cover. The leaves turn a nice reddish brown in the fall. And the genus name comes from the Greek tiara, meaning a small crown in reference to the form of the fruit. Blue mistflower reaches 1 to 3 feet at height of maturity. It has beautiful bluish purple fluffy flowers. It spreads quickly and attracts bees and butterflies. Wild stonecrop or woodland stonecrop reaches 2 to 8 inches at maturity. It has white flowers in April to June. Bees, wasps, and flies visit the flowers. Virginia creeper is a native climber in the grape family. It's noticeable in the fall when the leaves change color. It does form a dense ground cover and climbs trees, and is often grown to cover walls or fences. It can climb 30 feet or higher. Virginia creeper is often confused with poison ivy. However, Virginia creeper has 5 leaflets, while poison ivy has 3 leaflets. Because of its prolific growth, it can be a bit problematic if allowed to grow over other plants, as it can smother shrubs and even trees if not managed. However, Virginia creeper is very tolerant of pruning and can be cut back all the way to the base if necessary. Ferns are one of the oldest groups of plants on Earth, with a fossil record dating back to 383 to 393 million years ago. Ferns can make a lovely ground cover, though they might not be the best choice if you have dogs or kids that like to run around in your garden, which may break the fronds or the leaf or leaf-like part of the fern. Cinnamon fern reaches 3 to 4 feet at height of maturity, and the fuzz that covers the young fiddleheads or the coiled leaves is a favorite nesting material for birds. Ostrich fern reaches 1 to 3 feet at maturity. It spreads through underground runners, so give them room to grow and spread. Christmas fern, 1 to 3 feet at maturity. Christmas fern provides winter cover near the ground for songbirds, and it got its name because it stays green throughout the holiday season. Pennsylvania sedge, they make a splendid, sturdy ground cover once established, and they offer wildlife value in both sunny and shady conditions. Pennsylvania sedge can serve as a good alternative to non-native liriope, and sedges, like grasses, offer contrast and texture to ferns and other perennials. It grows in clumps and can reach 8 inches tall. And plantain leaf sedge, it can reach 8 to 10 inches at height of maturity and has purple-brown flowering spikes in early spring. There are some upcoming Zoom classes from 11 a.m. to noon. Registration is required using this link below. October 27th is seed saving, November 3rd is tree planting, November 17th is holiday arrangements. December 8th is garden goodies. December 15th is winter sewing. Previously recorded Zoom presentations can be found on the VCE-Prince YouTube page using this link. And if you have horticulture or environmental questions, please email the help desk at mastergardener@pwcgov.org. Thank you for joining today's presentation on ground covers, and we look forward to seeing you at upcoming Zoom classes.
If you enjoyed this video, please let us know with your questions, comments, and suggestions for other classes and videos. For more information on lawns and gardens, please contact the Extension Horticulture Help Desk at mastergardener@pwcva.gov. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.